Let's talk about the only shielded knife that I think can compete with the cjrbs and civivis out there, and that's the Shieldon Relicanth. Now, I've seen a couple reviews on this Relicanth, and I don't really agree with the assessment that they gave it. The Relicanth is a drop point style blade with a D2 steel. It has a black wash finish on the blade and a harpoon that comes all the way up to this notch right here, which we'll get into later. But then it has a swedge built into that harpoon that goes all the way down towards the tip, driving a little bit of strength towards the tip of that edge. These are G10 scales with the G10 backspacer here that has a lanyard loop built into it. It's hard to see, but these liners here do have a couple milling holes into them, and they're for weight relief, but I wouldn't say they did too much work on weight relief. They probably drilled about 4 holes in each liner. This liner is pretty easy to access, and the action with the flipper, or the reverse flick, or the thumb flick is great. I will say one thing that Shieldon really does is they try to listen to the customers and give them what they want. Hence this deep carry pocket clip that's placed in a pretty good position. This is on ball bearings, and the action really does reflect that, and I do believe they kind of nailed the tolerances on this. I have this knife taken apart. I did do an HRC test on this blade, and it came in between 58.5 and 59.5 between 3 different testings. I didn't sharpen this knife, but I have sharpened other Shieldon knives, mainly their 9CR Damascus, which it's not a 9CR Damascus, it's a layered Damascus with 9CR as the core, but it's sharpened up. Oh my gosh, did that thing take a wicked edge. So I do believe they're doing a decent job with their heat treats as well, and I can't imagine any different for this D2, although D2 may be a harder steel to heat treat properly. The G10 has this almost wood grain pattern going vertically, and then horizontally it has these notches in there. Now these notches, I think, give some people the opinion that it is a gas station style knife, which I've heard some terminology used while they're reviewing this knife, but I disagree. I think it actually adds quite a bit of traction, and they're doing their own thing. In that case, I actually like it. In hand, it feels amazing. This is, in my opinion, the perfect size EDC knife, and when I talked about that harpoon notch before, that's right where your thumb lands, and it fits so well. Behind the harpoon notch is a little bit of jimping on the blade so that you are definitely locked into this position. This is definitely a comfortable knife to use, and in breaking down Christmas boxes with this thing, I really enjoyed using it. Let's check out the overall specs. The overall length's coming in right around 7.5 inches, and the blade length's coming in right at around 3.25, a sweet spot for EDC. The cutting edge is right at about 3 1/8, so you're getting just as much cutting edge as you are blade length. The overall weight of this knife's coming in at a 3.94 ounces, just under that 4 ounce mark. It is pretty damn easy to carry. The blade stock's coming in at 115 thousandths. That's pretty damn good for EDC. The behind the edge thickness is coming in right around 20 thousandths, and that's pretty consistent up and down the blade, plus or minus thousandths. So they tell me that they actually did a pretty good job in the grind of this blade. They did a pretty good job with this plunge grind and sharpening choil. I have no issues there. Unfortunately for the Relicanth, cjrb's lineup on these feldspars is coming in around $35 to $40. That's really where I'd like to see this price point. The concept knife's coming in at around $55 to $60, while the Kizer Yukon I got for $27 on a flash sale at White Mountain Knives, normally coming in right around the same price as this Shieldon Relicanth. It wouldn't be a budget knife comparison if it wasn't held up against the Rats. This is your Rat Model 1 and your Rat Model 2, again coming in right at around the middle ground between these two knives. Lastly, and arguably the king of budget knives, this is your civivi comparison. We have the civivi elementum and the civivi altus. The civivi elementum's generic price coming in around $50 to $55, which is about the same price as the Relicanth. So I could see why they priced the Relicanth there. But you also have the civivi altus coming in at around $60 to $70 with so many more bells and whistles. If it was up to me, would I tell you to buy the Relicanth over the altus? If you could afford the extra 20 bucks, I would say get the altus. Now, while I just spent some time kind of tearing this apart against the other knives in the same price range, does that mean that I don't recommend the Relicanth? I said in the beginning, this is arguably Shieldon's best knife that they have produced. Between tolerances and design, I think this is probably the best thing that you can get out of Shieldon as far as very functional, not this gaudy looking mirror finish or Damascus style stuff that I don't know why they're doing. Bare bones EDC that's definitely going to function for a lot of things that you want to get done. I believe it's built well. I believe it's fidgety enough, and you had the flipper tab and the thumb stud, so that's good. I think the $50 price point is good, but I think they should do better based on cjrb and the Ontarios. If you really want to compete in this category, you got to do something exciting. This knife is not exciting to me necessarily, but what it does do is it does do everything well. It's kind of that generic elementum style knife where it's not exciting, it's just a good knife. But that's not good enough anymore. The budget category is so overwhelmed with so many good knives, you got to make it stand out. I don't want to see you make it stand out with the Damascus and all that. I think this is a great design. You need to knock off about $10, and then I can recommend this over almost any budget knife in existence. I think it's that good. I think if Shieldon can keep up their tolerances, keep making normal looking designs, I don't want to see the Tour Tank, this weird thing. I know some people like it, but it's not going to get you out there and take over the market if you're doing this very niche style knife. The Bulbasaur was a cool knife, but again, I don't know how many people went out and actually purchased the Bulbasaur and sought it out after all the other civivis, all the button locks and everything, and the price point's coming in around $70 for that thing. So why? Shieldon, you need to do something to stand out. If you want to break into a saturated market, you need to get down to cjrb feldspar prices. Should you buy this knife? Honestly, guys, if you like the design, if you like the look, I don't think $50 is a bad price point. I think you will actually like this more than most of your other budget knives once you get it in hand. But the problem is getting this thing in hand and pulling the trigger over everything else. The Shieldon Relicanth, from a reviewer's perspective, is a fantastic knife at a great price point. And I can tell you through use, I loved using it. I gave all of these Shieldon knives away because they were given to me by Shieldon, and I considered purchasing the Relicanth. That's how much I actually like this knife. I'm not going to tell you to look at Shieldon over cjrb, civivi, any of the other knives that are really saturating the market right now and taking over. But I do think if you can compete one-to-one, they compete pretty damn well.